Good evening, anglers. Jason Sharon, Travis is Karen, and I'm bringing us into another episode of Tampa Fishing Outfitters Live Fishing Report.
Yes, sir. In the house.
Hope
Did you say
everybody-
good evening, anglers?
Good evening, anglers. Well, this is
If
probably
you thought we were gone, you're wrong.
You can't get rid of us that easy. Anyway, we're here to talk fishing. Sorry about last week. We didn't make the show last week. We had some things come up. Had a guest that was scheduled and late cancellation on that, and it just worked out better that we
just wanted to play hard to get.
Show. So yeah,
we're
playing
hard to
get
last week. So.
And so anyway, we're here now.
Give us some love if you missed us.
That's right. Absolutely. But anyway, so what's going on, boys?
It's raining still. 3 weeks.
Yes.
Man.
In case you guys didn't know, anybody that's not in Florida watching the show, it's raining.
We're a little wet.
Driest
A little wet.
month of the year, and it's raining.
Yeah. I did some trolling out in my street with some clients.
Oof.
on the
Man,
high
you do
tide.
that. As long as you live in the house, does that drive you nuts, that freaking puddle?
Yes. Yes.
It's annoying.
That's a
Yes.
pretty good
I mean,
one.
you can't
Been
keep
there-
a clean car.
But no, I've been there since
Did
'95.
you, have you ever called the county and said,
Are you kidding?
did they laugh?
We've called the county so many times.
Rick
and-
has on the corner of his house, you guys watching, sorry to interrupt you. If it sprinkles,
we
there's
get
like a
puddled.
mini pond right
Yeah,
there that
we
you
get
have to
puddled,
drive. You have to drive through.
I will be willing to bet money that there is over 200 calls to the county about
In
our
that.
road. About our road.
I feel you, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I
mean,
mean, what do you
just-
think they're doing? They're
they
just
just-
laughing.
hey,
They pick up now. They go, "Oh, this is from Second Street."
Oh, you're talking about the pond
They
at the
got you
corner
on-
of the road?
sorry.
Nah,
They
we're
got
not
you on
fixing
speed
that.
dial.
We'll get to that eventually. Sorry.
Yeah, if you guys want to catch some like little bass,
Yeah.
there's probably some over.
Oh yeah, it's lots of bass and bluegill in that little hole.
Alaska Scott. Look for Captain Chet Jennings up there, man. I don't know where he's going to be at, but he's doing the same thing. So
hats
he'll
off
be
to
up there.
Chet. That's a tough nut to crack to go from Florida to Alaska to go
12
fishing.
12 weeks in Alaska.
hey, man,
That's cool. I mean,
that might be the new.
hey, you know what? He's gonna be the new dog in town, though.
Yeah.
Oh boy, that's gonna be hard.
Well, you know, it was funny, and I don't know where we're going with the whole show. We're going to talk some fishing here in
We
a second.
don't know.
But this is sort of an interesting thing, and I was talking to Captain Chet here a few weeks back, and just we were waiting to pick up clients, and so we were just kind of shooting the breeze, and I was asking him about his Alaska thing, and I said, aren't you nervous? I said, do you know where to fish? I mean, do you know how to fish? Do you know what you're going to be fishing for? And the cool thing is they have a little class that he has to go through. So once he gets into town,
yeah.
he's got to go through this course that basically tells him
course.
an ethics course that teaches him, how to fish in the area, how to respect people, I'm sure, probably certain fishing tactics, what's legal, what's not legal, and just go over everything. And that way that at least you've got a basis so that if something happens, somebody can rat you out or whatever and you can get blackballed as
Yeah.
far as I know.
Scott's in Seattle right now, taking off.
Dude, don't waste no time,
Get
man.
there.
Deuces, baby. But anyway, so I thought that was kind of cool, and we got to talking a little bit about the Bay Area and how something like that would be kind of cool to where
Yeah, we talked about that.
an accreditation to
Man,
just certain things,
It would
and
never work here.
a very difficult. It's a long conversation about it.
It would
but
work here. You just
sort of an
couldn't get it
interesting.
done, yeah.
I didn't know that existed up there to where, because that's what I asked him. I says, well, you're just gonna roll right in there, like you own the place. You
Yeah.
go throw out a bat of, I don't know what they throw up there, a bat of worms out and start catching salmon
he
or
was
what?
telling me that he thinks that it's
I'm
almost
kidding.
like Boca Grande, the way
Right.
they stack in the
Right.
rivers.
Right.
Well, they do a lot of drift fishing
Yeah.
too, I think. So it's probably
I honestly don't know, and
Is
when
he
I talked
bringing
to him,
I'll give him some jigs from back in the day if he needs to borrow some. Drop
when
the
I
old-
talked to him, it didn't really sound like he knew either.
No, I don't think so. But,
But-
I don't know.
but it's all good.
Sean Hagen did that years ago, and I don't think he was up there 12 weeks. I think he was up there 8 or 10.
He got kicked out.
No,
No.
no. He said it was pretty neat. He said it's a good change of pace.
It would be.
If I think it would be cool to do.
I wouldn't do
I'm
it.
a
It goes
homebody,
into-
and
I
I'm
tell
not
you-
gonna be gone that long.
I tell you what,
if I could do like 5 or 6 weeks, I think it'd be pretty cool.
the biggest difference about something like that, and there are some places saltwater that you can do, but it's that lodge/outfitters thing
Right.
where these people, they're coming into the lodge. Normally this is a life experience for them where they've made this trip, and they hire a guide out of the lodge or from an outfitter, and that's sort of where it all goes with him. Is I want to say he's on a salary, I think, in
He
terms
is.
of
Yeah.
the way that works, and so it takes a little bit of stress out of it, and probably gives you the
Oh, the
ability to have
stress
a
is
little more
definitely-
enjoyment
When
being
you're
a
in somebody
guide.
else's boat and you're using their fuel and their tackle,
Oh, see, I didn't know all that.
and it's guaranteed
We
bookings.
ain't taking a Ranger up there with the
Well, that's what
tower.
I was trying to. I was
No.
like, hold on, you bought all.
and it's guaranteed bookings for six.
We didn't get that far in the conversation.
6
Right,
days a
right.
week. It's guaranteed bookings. There is
Money.
no stress in that.
No, that's pretty sweet.
That's interesting. That
Yeah.
yeah. I'm thinking, damn, Chet, you went and bought another boat for 12
A
weeks.
rowboat.
Yeah, I'm like, this ain't making. I mean, he was telling us, I'm going. It sounds cool, but it don't sound like it's very profitable here. Like
Yeah.
new
No,
boat,
it's-
12
it's-
weeks, but now it's starting to.
That's funny, man. But
But that's interesting. They must have that much clientele that comes there for
Oh,
that.
they do.
it's destination stuff.
Yes.
It's like your Key West. That's like your Cabo San Lucas.
And I would
that's like
imagine
your,
they know how many guides to hire way beforehand from the pre-booking. And
I'm
all
sure.
that, so they. I don't know. It seemed like it'd be a pretty neat thing.
Definitely,
no,
I think it would
yeah,
definitely be
Especially
cool.
if you're like you guys got young kids, which it might be a little tough to do, but
Right.
like
That- that's
in
where
my
I was
case,
looking
and
at
in
it.
Chet's case, kids are grown. Take your wife with you and
Yeah.
make it a vacation.
No,
Right.
I at one point I thought as I got older and guide and got tired of fishing the bay, which I don't really get tired of fishing the bay. I don't know. I just do different stuff, but and that could change as I get older. But I thought at one
A
time
lot of
maybe
things
go to
change when you get older.
yes, they do.
Let's not go there.
Listen, is a
Wah,
30
wah, wah.
is a 33-year-old giving the 40-year-old
That's when the young
age
guy
advice.
gets the. That's when
That's
the young
like
guy
me giving
gets
you
the
advice, right?
bird
That really
chest y'all a little bit.
Yeah.
But
We won't talk about the old thing.
But I always thought maybe go to Key West and do the dolphin thing in the summer. At one point, that was like a cross of my mind. Travel there for the summer and do that in the summer months because you can run.
How many
medium-
dolphin you caught?
Not a whole lot, but I can figure it out. I did catch a big one.
There ain't
on
no
jump,
classes
but-
down in Key West, man.
Yeah, there is classes called slash your tire classes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, so I get it, especially at where Chet is in life. It's cool. Hey, I'm happy for me. I think it's gonna be neat.
No, I think it's pretty cool.
That's a heck of a jump, though. I don't know if I can make that jump because
That's both ends of the spectrum right there.
Ooh, I mean, I'm talking. You went way to the other side, like
Yeah.
But
I was cold today.
yeah,
I went in
you wouldn't
Alaska.
make it because you wear sweaters.
Dude.
We're making fun of you when you
Oh.
got sweaters on.
Today was brutal, man. It rained. I'm telling you, man, it rained from me catching bait till the time I dropped them off.
Well, when
man.
you said you're on the boat today in the text, I thought, man, it's rained awful hard
Oh.
today.
It did.
I did that the Sunday
it really wasn't
before.
that bad.
You gonna get us comments up there?
I'm trying. It really wasn't that bad, but the fishing was good in the morning, and then come like 11 to 1:30 ish, it was just. I think the fish had had enough. That water
Well,
come up,
Yeah.
and a lot of them fish went under the trees,
Got
and they were
tough.
like,
Yeah.
"I ain't coming out until
Yeah.
this
Well,
thing floods out." And so
it's-
that made it a little tough, but we did catch limited trout, some snook, and some redfish. So it was a good day. But
Well-
with the exception of the rain, but it was
I
it was
spent-
definitely wet.
It's funny you say that when it's been a
trying.
weird 3 weeks for fishing. It hasn't been bad for me. Tarpon
No,
fishing's
fishing's
been
good.
horrible.
The weather's just been a
But
bear.
the fishing's been real patchy, and I think it's the low pressure system spinning on us. You get a storm cell, you get a clear spot. Storm cell, and that barometric pressure is jumping around, dancing, and you can tell like you said today, you had a good bite, then it
Right.
just shut off. It's been really like up and down, and usually May is a month where you're pretty consistent on your fishing. Like it's going to be good throughout the month typically. You're going to have to fish around your quarter moon tides. You're going to deal with that, but. Yeah, this has been the May to forget and the March to forget. I
Just
mean,
everyth's been weird, man.
been
A
a
little
weird
bit
year.
weird, but all that being said, man, surprisingly, snook
scroll it down.
Snook and trout fishing has been phenomenal. Tarpon fishing's picking up. It's really just a weather thing, man. It's really just a weather thing. Bait hasn't really. That's what I was going to ask you guys. I've been so locked into getting deep water bait, but I know Rick, you're normally right up there.
I like catching it on the flats.
Have you been getting any bait on the flats
yet?
I just wonder because
There's
this is the
some
time
out
of
there,
year
but
where we ought to be full blown flats baiting it.
Yeah.
There's
Or,
some bait
you know,
on the flats. I've
just-
seen it, but
I've seen it
it's
fishing,
not,
but I haven't.
It's not like the herd that I would have expected.
Right.
I think it's been real patchy. There was a couple days I ran across the flats and I'm like, wow.
Right.
But then I go back the same area, a couple days.
Moved
That's
off.
where the tower is beneficial too.
Sure.
You can kind of run the outer flats and you can just see it. I'll run the edges of the grass on purpose.
It's just nice not to have to mess with the Cookie Monsters and all that on the
Markers.
on the marker
Cookie
on
Monsters.
The Cookie Monster.
on the flats. You're not you bite. You can get by
Yeah.
yourself. You
Yeah.
don't-
No bait
No.
wars.
I
no
tell
bait
you though,
wars.
it's been nice. You guys make fun of me, but I've been trying to time it like literally within like that 20-minute window. Come in and leave.
And
you
it's
know
clean.
what I mean?
And that's
And
the
it's
nice
good,
part.
clean bait. And there's like this morning,
Yeah.
I had to call the guys. I pushed them back a half hour this morning. I went a couple different places. I marked some bait. Now I didn't get the net out till about the third spot because I've been kind of spoiled. So it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep going because that's not quite enough. That's like 3 throws instead of 1, But so I kept moving. But I ended up getting like a quarter full net on my first throw, and I moved to another marker. And like we were talking on the way over, it was just stacked. But all that bait had pushed out, and I think a big part of it was A, the moon, and like you said, B, a lot of fresh water I picked up today in the river and loaded full of well, come in the river, lay it down, and I mean within 10 minutes they were flaking out. I had to get out of the river. That's how much fresh water was in the river.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
and I wasn't upriver. I was,
I was in there
Pirates
doing
Point,
some
actually.
tarpon fishing, and I had called you Friday because and it really sucked. I had a double that ended up canceling the afternoon because it just started pouring.
you're gonna get a hat, Captain
And,
Cancel. You're right up there with me now.
Dude, I've
You're
canceled a
getting
lot.
there.
Most trips probably ever in this
It's been bad,
time frame
man.
that
It's
I've
been real
canceled.
bad.
And I've ran a lot that it was
In nasty weather.
I'm like, if I don't get rained on, I don't feel like I'm not on the boat.
That was this
lately.
morning. That was
Yeah,
this
I mean,
morning,
it's
man.
just. But we ended up. These guys, I originally had a double, so I was a little more concerned about my bait. And I had flew 3 juvenile tarpon the day before, and there was a lot of them in there. And we hooked one, and you tell you hit it by you hit it, you think get the hook set, and I start looking at my well, and I'm like,
How
the
much longer do
bait-
we have? How much
well,
longer
what was
do we have?
funny is, in my back well, I don't have air. The bait actually their nose started turning white around their eyes and their nose.
Really?
It was funny. I told my cousin, look at this bait, and it had to be the salinity. Like, I don't know if they were just, but half of them flaked off from my back well, and then the other half, like, you could literally look at the bait, and the whole top of their nose was turning white and green and different colors. And I have no clue. It had to be the fresh water.
I literally,
But,
I mean, it's going to sound disgusting, but you guys both know me and know I did it. I reached in and took a swig of it. I mean,
The
it was-
water?
Yeah,
I taste it all the
it
time.
was
I'll
I mean,
put it on my
yeah.
tongue.
fresh as all get out.
Yeah.
I mean, just from, I said, all right, guys, and I called them. I said, let's go. They jumped in the boat, and they're like, I'm like, no, we got to go, like now.
Yeah.
I rolled out, and by the time I got, out to Cockroach Bay or just around Sand
Start to
Key
come
there,
back a little bit.
yeah, started, I mean, noticeable difference. But
Well, Nathan's got a question here. He's asking us here. He says, looking to come fish Tampa area the first time, should I go inshore or the beaches for snook and tarpon?
Both.
Nathan, you can go both. I will tell you that I did a tarpon trip last week, and the beaches, I've got some reports from Jim Limke and a few others. I've been out to the beach once. There's not a lot of fish out there. I did not go over to Egmont. I ran south of that, and I ran hit spots all the way in to Ruskin. There is not the big herd of fish as of last Wednesday, and what I think with all this weather, I don't think there's a ton, but we are typically, rule of thumb, a week and a half behind Boca Grande
at least.
yeah, week
At
and a half
least.
is a good number, 2 weeks. And last week, the boys were whacking them in the pass. So I knew I was already, there was some fish out off the beaches. We fished them for 3 hours. But, to me, you see 100 fish in the bay, that's money. You see couple hundred fish out in the passes, you're like, like you want to see the big herd, and the herd wasn't there. Now I did hear that there was some good knots of fish. Yesterday they had pushed back in after the weather, but I haven't been out there. I got a tarpon trip on Friday, so we're gonna try to make a go at it.
How long do you think the crabs are gonna flush?
How long or when? The crabs haven't been flushing good at all.
No,
the passes.
hadn't
And
seen
last
it
year it did the same thing.
Late.
I've seen some.
all the way into August.
Yeah.
Late August. I was dipping crabs last year in late August.
The flush was later
No
last
problem.
year. May is not I've never done real good on the flush on May, on the outgoings. As far as the passes, now if you get around the bridges and stuff, it's different.
Sure.
But I think your main flushes happen, well, we're at the end of May, so we're getting there, like the next moons and stuff. But I don't know if they've been flushing good at the passes, because I went out there last week, which the tides were, it wasn't a flush tide. So, but, I mean, they're going to show up. I just, the last 4 years, like, the tarpon on the beaches and that group of fish, they have not been normal, and it's because we keep getting these systems on us. Like, I see captains posting, sharing stuff from whacked them 2012, caught 20 tarpon. Well, I'm like, yeah, well, we haven't had a good weather system for tarpon in 2 or 3 years. Like, it's been jacked up. Last year, the first week of June, I'll never forget, because I canceled like 4 trips. We had a low pressure system, or a system develop. We had the southwest wind blowing for like 4 or 5 days straight. I'm talking like 25 knots. And that was the week of the moon. Well, I thought the big herd of fish was going to really get in, and they were going to get crazy. And our season last year wasn't real good. So I think we're just dealing with, and that, and you add the boat pressure. I mean, I think we got more people fishing the passes here than we do Boca Grande.
I don't know about that, because I've never fished.
I mean, that's been the joke. Is like, that's been the ongoing joke.
There's definitely a rivalry. The difference, or the biggest, well, you got to kind of look at it. If you compare, like, say, Bean Point, past Egmont to the north, that's kind of like Boca Grande Pass, as opposed to like Bean Point or Southwest Channel.
Yeah.
Or,
that's what I'm saying. And,
so if you add all that up, it's probably getting close. But, Boca Grande is just a bigger area.
There's more fish in a smaller area.
100%.
We have a lot of fish, but they're spread out amongst different areas. And yes, sometimes they do conjugate into one area, but it's different. It's a lot different. I think if you took the 2 passes, take weather, and you take boating traffic and everything else, Boca Grande's has more fish, because they're in one area. We got a ton of fish, but they're spread out, and you got to go find them, and it's harder to fish them.
And it's just, I mean, the passes, and I don't speak as like a Boca Grande pass guide, but I do know quite a bit about how they fish down there. But there's just like here, they've got holes, they've got ledges, they've got bars. You can get up on the rip of the island and go fish the beaches and sight fish. So they got the whole type of scenario. It's just, I think that the makeup of Boca Grande Pass, makes it the tarpon capital of the world.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's nothing like it.
That's just a place where they can get in, and the flush and the estuary. We always talk about, or I always talk about, the comparison between Tampa Bay and Charlotte Harbor.
Well, they call Egmont Little Boca Grande, because it's got the same like thing.
Setup.
It's just bigger and not as much fish. A bigger pass with less fish in the pass.
Yeah,
and they're more spread out.
Those fish in Boca, because I've never tarpon fished down
there. Dude,
and I hope I never have to.
It's a phenomenon.
Do those
our
cool. Fish will move from Egmont to Bean Point to the bridge?
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
What do those fish there do?
They get out on the beach.
Same thing.
Yeah,
they'll roll up into.
But they don't have as many pass options.
Well,
though.
but it's the same. It's the same thing, man. I mean, it's almost like
it is the same.
If you look at it, I mean, like, you can take Boca Grande Pass, and you'll have pass fish. You'll have bay fish that sit in the 2 reefs in the deep holes. You can come all the way up and fish the east side, Alligator Creek. You can fish Ponce. You can fish Hog Island. You can fish the mouth of the Yaeckel, Peace River. That's much like Gandy, Alphi, Little Manatee. It's the same sort of scenario.
Well, if they do, I don't think our.
No, I'm just talking about how
you
you
have multiple passes.
Our fish don't go from Egmont to Gandy.
What do you mean? Like, it's just a weird.
I'm talking.
This.
You've gone out there before, and I know Jason has.
I'll say they do late season.
Let me finish. Where you go to Bean Point, and for 2 days you got fish rolling all over you. You're
Brian, I
jumping
like
fish,
that.
and
Unfortunately, I don't make no money doing that.
2 days later you go there and you can't find them. Then you wheel around to Egmont and they're there.
If you're at Gandy and then you go
no,
to
no, I'm talking about if you're at Bean Point and you're on them for 2 to 3 days, man.
right.
You're flying fish, fishing's great. You go back, they're gone. Where'd they go? They were here yesterday. Well, and then you go to Egmont. Bam! There's a ton of fish at Egmont.
I think some of them bounce around. I think some of them
Those
will
fi-
run
I don't
south,
think those
some
fish
run
are going
north.
in a 1 or 2
I
day
don't really
span
know. I would
from
if I had to take
Egmont
a.
to Gandy.
If you ask me,
No,
That's
I think
what I'm
you've got
saying.
several different
I think during
schools
the
of
season
fish.
you're getting that, but
I mean, when I talked about the comparison to Charlotte Harbor to Tampa Bay, what I talked about was, or what I was trying to emphasize was the setup of the estuary, where you've got this
it's very similar.
where you've got this migratory pattern of fish that are Gulf side. You've got more of a residential fish that's in the bay and
Yep.
up the rivers. Your juveniles you're not gonna sit in Boca Grande Pass and catch a 20-pound tarpon.
No.
It ain't gonna happen.
no.
They're upriver. They're up in the estuary.
Yeah, but what-
so
When I'm talking about moving, I'm talking about in a 2 or 3 day span, where they'll go
you get
here.
spawning cycles too that
They'll
say
run
that say there was
offshore.
100
I'm not
fish
push
talking- I'm not
offshore.
talking
and they
about
push
that.
off or whatever and come back or keep migrating.
The biggest difference,
That's
they're
not what I'm
very
talking
similar. The biggest difference is we have Southwest Pass, Bean Point, Paso Grill, which Paso Grill don't hold a lot of fish, and then Egmont, where there you got Boca. So there's one
Right.
pass, and I think our fish are spread out between 4 or 5. They got options. And Boca, they're all right there, or they're outside on the reefs.
Well, you got Boca, and then like what happens is, and we just don't fish down there a whole bunch, but Boca Grande is what gets talked about. But you can go up to Inglewood, you can Stump Pass, or you can go down Pine Island, where Sanibel, Redfish Pass, all those passes, those beachside passes it's going to have the same type of stuff, and I think those fish do move up and down. But there's this weird thing where
That's
and
what I was
I don't-
asking,
and I
what
don't
do the
know,
fish in Boca do?
but I think fish
I
move
don't
north.
know.
I can't
fished
see
the tarpon tournament,
from
but
a migratory perspective. Let's just say 100 tarpon that somehow find their way from Boca Grande to Venice to Sarasota. Then they're at Bean Point.
you seen that
you know-
they don't?
No, I'm
No,
saying
they
that they
do.
do.
Oh,
Right.
100%.
But what I'm
I know
saying
this,
is-
FWC told me, I talked to
100%.
FWC years
They're on a
ago,
migratory pattern.
and they tagged tarpon. I remember asking them, and them tarpon go all the way up over the coast and end up in Texas in 1 year. They
100%.
had tagged fish that did that. So when I say they're like a week and a half, 2 weeks behind Boca, that's now
But
some of
you
the
get-
fish stay in the past,
Right.
But then some of them
And
run
that's what I'm
up.
saying is you'll get a a movement of fish,
Right.
a pod of fish that
Yep.
moves off, and then the next wave is behind it, and that mega school may sit in the pass for 2 weeks. And
When
chew.
tarpon move,
And then 100 of them leave and go north, and then 50 of them go to the reef and spawn, and then it's never when I think about tarpon,
never
it's never
sit.
just one big mass ball of
No.
fish.
No, I get
It's
that.
a split up pattern of fish that
but then
are making their way
sometimes
north.
where you get the megawatt is where all them little schools decide that they're going to
Feeding time,
and
that's a
when
hilltide.
you've been to the pass,
That's a
and
hilltide.
that frickin' thing is from one end to the other, and you're marking 30 foot
Right.
of fish, and you're going
Right,
game on.
I agree. I'm
Game
with you
on.
100%, man.
But I've actually, and if you actually go out there, especially like a weather pattern. Last year, I remember, I never forgot, I had, you've taken Marty before. I had Marty on the boat.
Mhm.
We were on fish, and I could not get these things to eat, and a storm rolled in. I had an afternoon trip. I canceled my afternoon. I told Marty, we're staying. Like, I got stubborn. The weather looked bad. There's a storm coming in. And, Rick, it was the neatest thing. We didn't hook a damn fish, but it was the neatest
was
thing
cool,
because
Rick.
it was cool. It was the coolest time because these fish came out of the pass, and they got out on the outside of Bean, and they run that ledge, and they'll get off the deep stuff down south. And they repeat, like, until the moon cycle. It's like a cycle. I've fished out there enough to know it. These fish got out there, and that system kicked up. Dude, these things got on their horse and was greyhound.
Got loose.
And my point being is, tarpon will just a barometer change from a storm will just run like miles, like greyhounds. It is so neat how it's so frustrating as a guide because you're trying to pinpoint something
Right.
that don't stay. You
No.
know, they're runners. So it's and
But that's the game you play
oh yeah.
with when you fish those beach
Trying to
fish
tell a
as
customer
opposed
that
to
is-
fishing them bay fish.
But
Answer a question, boys.
let's answer some
Candy.
questions. Oh,
taking
was
that's
this what
Kurt's
was
wife.
the one
Yeah.
that was coming? So we've got a question here, guys. It says,
Don't mind sitting.
I
6
wanted to
hours.
get a snook over 40 inches
It's a
and don't
trick
mind
question.
sitting for 6 hours. Putting in a cockroach, where and what type of bait would I use?
something big.
Something
Ladyfish, threadfin.
Ladyfish
Yeah, cut bait.
or
Something dead.
mullet at this point.
I've never
I mean,
done good with mullet. I know it works.
yeah,
I've done good with ladyfish, trout.
a big pinfish will
If
do
it's
it
legal.
too. But
A trout carcass.
here's the
Sugar trout.
the biggest
Yeah.
part. This is a two-sided question.
Yes.
So a lot of people know what to use. The real kicker is
Where
do I throw
to
it
use it?
to where
The fish
something's
are.
gonna eat that cut bait.
So I got to way around this question a little bit. So
We get a way around it. Why don't we
a
just
little
answer
bit.
it?
Well, we can, but we're not going to give out spots to go fish. But
I'll give yours away.
with
Jason
big
fishes
snook or
big
cut
fish in Bishop's Harbor.
yeah, right around the first island to the right. There's going to be 80 boats there, but
And there's going to be about 10 Mogans.
yes, and they're gonna look at you, and you're gonna look at them, and they're gonna look back for about 6 hours, and I don't even know if you're gonna
And
hook 'em.
fishing at
Five
night,
and a half, you
fishing
might
at
get 'em.
night. Fishing at
Night does help.
is a better chance of getting one of those big old.
I agree
thing
with
about
Manny. A
using
big
cut bait-
grunt or a pinfish.
I've caught them a pinfish.
That's my
I
live
haven't done
bait
a grunt,
go-to.
but I know they work. Manual, I've never used shad. The thing about using
Mahara.
cut bait, no matter what,
Or
is
sand perch.
you need to for me, and you guys might be totally different because we always argue about stuff. You need to know roughly where the fish are sitting, and B, you need to put that bait in that area. You need this. They're going to pick up on the scent. They're going to kind of clean that thing up almost like a bass bed, but you can't throw it 20 yards off to the right. More than likely, the fish are going to be balled up. They're going to be sitting in an area. You need to know where the fish are, and then you need to have your bait there. And this is what I tell my customers: you need to act like a rod holder.
Yeah, absolutely.
Act like a rod holder. Remember that,
Dead
because
bait
that's what I
don't
tell. Don't move it. Don't reel it in. Don't shake the
That's the
rod.
biggest part, man. You
Don't
can't
touch it.
move
Don't
it.
breathe.
Don't move it.
Act like a rod holder. I can't stress that enough.
Put it in the rod holder until you see the line start
Well,
to move.
my new boat's got 2 rod holders on the front. I'm more
I
excited about that.
got
than
2
anything.
up there. I really like those.
Well, I didn't do that on the last one. The new one's got them in there. So, but that's the key: is you need to really focus on the area and make sure you're in that area. And fish in quadrants. Like if the fish you think are here and you throw there for 15, 20 minutes, it's going to take time too. Throw your next cast 20 feet over. 20 feet over. If you know they're in that general area, you're not 100%, because they'll move around.
Sure.
I mean, there's
They have
there's
tails.
spots in cockroach where it's like A, B, C potholes, and I'll say, all right, guys, we're gonna hit A, we're gonna hit B, we're gonna hit C, and D, and then after that, maybe they moved on the moon or something. I don't know, but you really have to aim that cut bait to the right area. So that, and thread fins are my favorite. Cut thread fin.
Yeah, big threadies are tough to beat.
Son,
I love me some lady. I don't really have like a huge. I mean, if you laid out all, a ladyfish, a mullet, say a pinfish, and a thready, and I was gonna go target a big snook, my live bait would be a big pinfish. That'd be my live bait. But if I'm
did
gonna
I know
cut
that?
bait, I'd go to
How did I know
ladyfish.
that?
I'd go to ladyfish. And don't ask me why, but for me personally, I like mullet.
Ladyfish stink.
I like mullet for redfish, but I like ladyfish for snook. And I think the reason why I like mullet for redfish is the way that I cut them into chunks. They're a lot tougher than a ladyfish.
Yeah,
right?
ladyfish are mush.
To cut it into smaller
They're
pieces,
mush.
it's a lot more hardier on a hook. Say you're pitching up on the trees or whatever. But with a ladyfish, generally, now here's something else too.
You
The
don't
size
wanna-
of
you
this
don't wanna-
bait.
You don't want to
You-
deep hook that bait either.
No, you don't want to deep hook a cut bait. You barely want to hook it just enough to cast it. And the idea is that when that fish takes the bait and you come tight on it, you want the bait gone and just hook and leader. But what I was going to say was to fish for big snook, you got to fish for big snook.
Mm-hmm.
A bait the size of this phone, it sounds crazy, but I mean a chunk like that's nothing. That's a ladyfish sickle. I mean, they'll suck them down. But what you're doing is you're eliminating the catfish, the pinfish, some of these other stuff that are going to come by, and bottom feeders, that are going to pick that stuff up and take it off. You put a big enough bait on there to where they can't pick it up and run
Right.
with it.
They'll peck at it.
They'll peck at it and they'll kind of nibble on it a little bit or whatever. But generally, You know, I put a bait out there, and a lot of times people are like, "What are we fishing for?" And I'm like, "Oh, snook," you know. And the funny thing is when you throw a bait out there, you know, and it's that big old chunk, you know, and you catch a 28-inch snook or 27-inch snook.
Fresh, not frozen.
Because they will eat, yes, and fresh.
Jason,
definitely fresh.
You remember the time we were fishing in a little cockroach? You might not remember. This is about 2 or 3 years ago. And I looked over at you, and you had these guys. You were throwing baits that were like this. And they weren't like stiff baits. They looked like a dish rag. And those guys were rearing back, and man, when they would put that rod back like that to throw it, that rod would go like boom.
Bending like a slingshot.
Boom. And then when it went out, it looked like a dish rag, just doing like this.
Hey, sometimes you take what
and
you
there
get.
was some. You didn't get any that day, but there were some big. I was hoping you was going to get one because I was going to sit back and video you, but that day they didn't want to eat. But that was so funny because I'm telling you, those baits look like that.
Yeah. Hey man, them big snook, they're like nasty.
I
old,
like
you remember
big
that?
baits,
That was
man.
so funny.
I don't. I wish I did.
Man,
Somebody-
we were laughing because we were just catching the little yuppies over there, you know. But that was so funny. You saying that about the big baits just made.
I
me
will
think
say
of that.
that's one thing with big snook. Now, granted, you can take a 2-inch greenback, throw it out there, and catch a 40-inch snook.
Yes.
Elephants will
I'd
eat
say
peanuts.
more spring and fall.
But
Yes.
Summer they get
that's
garbage
one
cans.
thing with snook that generally, the bigger the bait, the bigger the fish. Like a lot of the times, you know. And when I say a pinfish the size of my hand, I mean a pinfish the size of my hand. Like you catch them on rod and reel, and
And
you're
you,
like,
you
you
clip
know,
that dorsal fin on.
I don't clip a single. And you know who I learned that from? I used to, and I was talking to Dave Pomerleau years ago about it, and we got to talking this, that, and the other. And I said, you know, with a big pinfish, I mean, you know, these bigger ones. I said, you don't think that a snook will come up and mouth one, and you know he flares up, and you gotta. He goes, no. He goes, in the wild, do they, you know, does that bother them? Like, no,
No.
that's their natural prey. He goes, they hammer them, you know. And
He
and
would know.
I never really saw a big difference in it, you know, either way. So I always, especially with pinfish, man, I'll let them roll. I clip them right there behind the old poop chute and that soft tissue, and drive them right down. Now I'll tell you one of my favorite things to do. I'll give you a little hint. If you're gonna dock fish, right? Pinfish are incredible for catching big snook under docks, and partially because they're going to go to the bottom and you can drive them. Now you want a bigger bait, but you get up current of a dock that's got big fish sitting under it, and you fire that bait out, you know, 30 feet in front of that dock, and just free line him and let him swim back towards that dock, and that's where you'll catch those big snook, especially on a good, you know, incoming or outgoing tide when they're set up to feed. That's one of my favorite things to do is free line live pinfish under docks to catch big snook. But
Well, Travis, are we ready to take a break? You got
we
your
can take a break
Let's do
anytime
a
you
break.
want, Chief.
guys. We're gonna take a little break here. When we get back, I've got some, you know, I've got some stuff I want to talk about, and there's some stuff floating around social media, and we're gonna put some stuff up in the comments here. But we're gonna talk a little bit about our redfish and numbers and what we can do in the future. And in the meantime, we'll take a little break and pay some bills. You listen to Tampa Fishing Outfitters Fishing Report live.
Nom 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 nom.
Travis said that, and I'm like, God.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Perfectly
Tampa
good.
Fishing Outfitters live fishing report.
Cookie.
We are
bait.
just
Oh
having a
my
ball in here, man.
Sweet Jesus,
Yeah. Give me greenback.
10-pound, 4-ounce, baby Jesus.
That's it. We're going to talk a little business here. Got a little redfish stuff going on. In the meantime, I know we always forget to mention it. If anybody out there is looking to do some fishing inside Tampa Bay, all three of us are full-time fishing guides, mainly on the South Shore of Tampa Bay, but we'll come get you anywhere you're at. So if you're looking to do a trip, we can cover anywhere from 1 to About 20 anglers if you got them. 30 anglers.
500.
We'll make
Bring
it
it,
work.
son. We'll get them
But,
handled.
myself, Captain Travis, 813-830-3474, or my website, www.fishbyinstinct.com.
We can handle up to 500 anglers. You don't believe we have that many captains in Tampa Bay? Just ask for a charter on a group.
Just say you got 500 anglers on Tampa Bay Fishing Club.
I tell you what, that is a good way to find out how many charter captains there.
It's kind of interesting. I've actually met people that I didn't know, and then I run into them on the water, and they're like,
oh, you're a captain. I'm like,
hey,
I
bro.
didn't know you're a charter captain.
What's up, homie?
I had one of them asking me for where to go fishing at, and I shortly I was trying to be a nice guy, and I found out that he was on a booking for his charter. I'm like, well, okay.
Call you up.
But
where should I go?
Yeah, no, I swear he messaged me, and I was trying to be nice. It's like, check this out. It's been pretty good down there. And then
it's like the guy that called you for a group trip and then followed you around all day.
Yeah, it's like, well, okay. Maybe I missed the buck here. It's a lot easier if you pull that off.
Yeah.
Just kind of go undercover and get where you're going fishing.
I've been doing that to y'all for 6 years.
We
Yeah,
hadn't
but we
picked up
knew
on
you're
it.
a charter
I
captain.
don't even know.
But
I didn't know you were a charter captain.
You're like, hey,
I thought you were just out there wreck
you
fishing.
got any bait over there for me?
I was just going out with my wife for a little while.
Hey, Rick, you over there catching bait? I don't even have a cast net.
What y'all got?
I haven't figured out how to throw. I bought the cast net, but I haven't figured out how to throw it yet. Are you guys doing a cast net seminar? This whole time he's been snaking us, man.
Don't worry, though, bro. Hey.
Well, yeah, I was waiting for y'all to figure it out.
Hey.
You never did, so I figured I'd tell you.
The bait boats are here. Don't worry.
But, guys, I did want to talk about something that I think is an important topic, and I think there's been a lot of talk on social media. There's been a lot of talk with the captains. There's been a lot of talk through the Florida Guides Association, and we finally put something together that's a start to maybe figuring out or answering some of the questions or looking at the species. And everybody knows, I think we're all in agreement that red fishing is just not what it used to be.
I caught one today.
I've been catching a
throw that out
few
there.
here and there, but
You slammed them.
29-incher, man.
Slammed them.
But I think that this has been inside the Florida Guides on the board. It's been of talks across the state, and the common denominator is we have something wrong. I don't know what it is, and we don't really know how to attack it. But I think it's starting to become an issue where the FWC is getting kind of aware of it, and they're looking into stuff. So what Charlie did is a great idea at the Florida Guides Association. Is he decided to do a survey, and we did a couple different versions of the survey. The survey's the same, but we did the survey within the board, and then we filtered it out, shut that down. Then we start the survey for the Florida Guides members, shut that down. Now we've got it's the same survey, but it's a survey for the general public to fill out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's in different categories so they know where the information is coming from. And I'm going to hopefully see if I can post it here. I'm going to post a link to the survey. This survey, from my understanding, and I just put it on the comments, is going to be presented to the FWC, and it's going to be used to however they want to use it, but the Florida Guides is going to give it to them. And the one thing about the Florida Guides Association that I've learned over the years is they're pretty well respected. The FWC actually asks them sometimes for opinions and thoughts and on the people on the board and members at times to come up. Not that they don't use my opinion to come up with but they use that as another source. Mm-hmm. And the best way to get your limits on stuff is scientific data. Scientific data is the best factual thing that we have. Gathering that data can be tough at times. We're talking about fish that swim around and they use different techniques and stuff. But anyhow, this survey is something that you can fill out, and the data is going to be recorded, and the data is going to be given to the FWC. And there's some other stuff that's going to happen that I don't have all the answers to, but as soon as I get the answers and able to give it out to you guys, I will. But again, people, I can't stress this out. You putting your opinions on Facebook might seem self-justifying, but I've never seen the FWC look at Facebook and go, oh, that's what we need to do. Mm-hmm. This gives people an option to fill the survey out, mm-hmm. and it gives you an option to have a voice and put your opinion in front. It's going to go in front of somebody that matters. And now, will they agree with you? I don't know. I'm sure some of these surveys are way off in left field. There's some people that don't want to harm a fish in this world, and there's some people that want to kill everything that has a tail, regardless of how many are left. Obviously, that's two opposite ends of the spectrum, but this is something that we can use, and you can use, and put your opinions in this survey. That's the best thing I can say.
I'm going to answer Mark here real quick. One, the water quality in Tampa Bay is fine. Two, we probably need some regulations on redfish, and all of our fish are regulated, and I applaud the FWC. I think they do a good job with our fisheries.
It's not perfect, but
and I don't know what area you fish, Mark, or whatever, but I know on the west coast of Tampa Bay, from south of Sarasota to Clearwater, talking with different people that fish and good anglers and good guys, not just guides, but people that fish, the redfish bite is down. So
this is across the state,
right? You can't, we were catching a lot of redfish with water quality where we're at now, or not as good as we're, because we got good water quality right now. And
well, there's certain parts of the bay they've had some dumps here and there, but overall across the board, I would agree with you. The seagrass is pretty good.
Jeff Page is one that Jeff's a pretty darn good red fisherman, and he's been doing it for years. And I see Jeff on the water, and I said, "How's the red fishing down your way?" And he said, "Why you think I'm up here, man? I'm looking." He goes, "There ain't no red fishing."
No, this is Jeff's words. It's all gone bad. That's it.
So I mean, this is a promo for more regulations. I would like to see them stiffen them up on redfish until we get back to where we were. And if we, you have to have regulations on things on occasion. And I'm a conservative. I'm all for no government, but or small government. You have to police the industry and the resources.
Yeah. And it can't be controlled by money and lobbyists, because then it gets jacked up like offshore.
But it's I mean, you got to be proactive and not retroactive on something.
You don't wait
like
till there's a problem. So you kind of try to catch it in early stages, because if you wait till it's a big problem, a lot of times it's too late, and then we're got a lag of years to get caught up to get back. Because then they go, and also at that point, I think what ends up happening when you wait too long, Rick, is you get an extreme measure that happens. Right. I'm going to use the snook kill is not for anybody. That's not from anybody doing anything, but that's a good example. We had a huge kill, and they had to go with extreme measures to get the numbers back. But if you ignore,
and Mark says he works at the wastewater plant, and there's a lot of things not right. I don't know. I mean, if you work there and you say it, I believe you. But I don't know that that's where. I don't know that's what's wrong with our redfish.
No,
because a wastewater plant in Tampa is not going to affect the fish in
Bob, I agree with you. I agree with you, and I'm not sure all the details on the redfish hatchery. I don't think they do it anymore. Correct?
The hatchery, the hatchery, I believe, still exists. I just don't think they have a program where they actually release fish into the wild.
That would be the first thing I would think, common sense wise.
But yes and no. I mean, I want to jump back to Mark's question.
I agree with Mark's last comment. I agree with that.
And I agree. And Mark's question was, this sounds like a promo to more regulations on fish instead of water quality in Tampa Bay. And that's a two-sided question.
We can do both.
Well, I'm not saying 100% that we need.
It's a promo on making fish.
I do think regulations on redfish do need to change. Is this a promo to change that? No, not really. It's a promo to figure out what's going on with redfish, establish different areas, figure out what we need to do to make red fishing better in those areas. Now, some of those are going to be water quality. Some of those are going to be habitat that fish used to live in that's not there anymore, whether it's seagrass, whether it's oyster bars, whether it's sandbars, troughs, whatever. Then you got pressure. You got areas that guys are running shorelines, pole and troll areas, stuff like that. One thing to consider, and this isn't going to be the staple for Tampa Bay, but there's one big school of redfish that through all this has managed to stay intact, still show up, people still catching quality redfish. And I'm not going to name the place because everybody knows, but I will say that it's a pole and troll area, and those fish stay there. Not necessarily stay there, but they frequent that area a lot. Now, there's another place over in St. Pete that has the same type of setup, and those fish aren't there, or they haven't been there in the last 2 years. So there's different things going on in different areas. Water quality may be the issue in this area. Like I said, pressure may be the issue in this area. We got,
I'm sure
whether
but this is beyond.
it's a beyond. But
this is beyond Tampa Bay, dude. This is
the point
across
of
the state.
The point of the conversation, Mark, is it may allude to restrictions or regulation changes on redfish, but it stems from getting a consensus of what's going on from the real people out there watching what's going on. Because if we continue to let science and just the pencil pushers tell us what our fishery is like, we're not doing ourselves justice. We're going to have an inadequate assessment of what our stock is. And so things like this, where people like you may say red fishing's really good in your area. You may say it's really bad.
We need
but
that
all
info
that helps.
regardless.
If you've got a place
right,
that's
exactly.
thriving, that red fishing's doing very
They
well,
need to know.
that's a place to zone in and go, whoa,
What's going on here
different
that's better?
They
than
can
here?
test the water there.
And that's why this survey.
Exactly, and
If,
so
if you think
it's-
redfish is good
It's
in
all
your
about,
area, if you think redfish
getting
is
the
good
data.
in your area and you don't see a problem, put it on this survey. The survey is there for data, for people. It gives them an idea. When the FWC goes to work, or whoever else agencies, I know FWC is the main one, and they have something to go on. It's just like
I agree, Mark.
a
I'm
crime
with you.
investigation. They go interview people, witnesses. Why? Because they're trying to get a lead to get consensus on where to start.
Mhm.
So this is what the survey kind of helps them amongst other pieces of the puzzle. But point being is, I don't think in any of that investigation they're taking your comments on Facebook and using them.
Right.
It's got a little more weight. That's what it's provided for, and I think it's great. I think I wouldn't even have thought off the top of my head to come up with a survey, and it's pretty simple.
That's
hats off to Charlie Phillips, our president. It was his idea, and I thought, man, it was like, man, why didn't I come up with that?
And to answer Bob, or just to comment on what Bob said there, we know there is no
Yeah.
secret. There's no secrets anywhere.
And I'll
but that's not why he didn't allude or give to that. It's not like we got fish at Whedon and nobody knows.
And Mark,
I don't even fish it because too many people know.
I'm with you. I spent quite a while in water wastewater. I was an automation systems programmer, and I've programmed a lot of water wastewater treatment plants and all the processes in between, from the intake to the outflow. So I'm with you on that. The only point that I was trying to make before we go in here is that may affect you where you're at or where you're seeing it, but a Gulf side, it may not affect that area as quite as much. Does it need to be looked at? Absolutely. Forget the fish, forget redfish. Look at our sea life, look at our birds, look at our other aquatic animals. It's not just redfish at that point. When you're putting pollutants into the bay, that's affecting a whole bunch of stuff. And that may be why. It may kill the shrimp or kill the bait, and that's why the redfish aren't there. The redfish might not be dead, or they're not, gone. I tell you what, the guys I had on the boat today were from Homosassa, okay? They told me that they want to go trout fishing today because they can't catch a lot of keeper trout in the area that he was fishing in. He said, but I can take you up. And catch as many redfish as you want to catch every cast. And Homosassa, I said, really? I said, we're seeing the opposite thing here.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm going with it. I mean, you look up in that area, you got
redfish.
scallops, you got that whole water clarity, cleansing thing going on up there with the oyster bars and that habitat up there. And so maybe that has something to do with it, But the big thing with redfish, and then I think we'll do a fish reports or something because we only got a few minutes. But the big thing with redfish is, I always go back to the fact that the big schools, the big breeder schools, these giant wads of fish that would show up every year, where are they at? Because we didn't kill those fish. They weren't getting over-harvested. There's some reason why those fish either A, aren't showing up, they're going north, they're going south, or they're staying deep, or they're doing something different than what they used to do.
They're not running across a flat to mow down the shrimp.
Bob,
they're mowing down those big quarter-sized pinfish that you
Bob,
see flashing across the hole.
Bob, I somewhat agree with you. That has to, and be careful what you ask for that. But I somewhat agree with you. I think in certain areas, Bob, they need to have designated lanes to run into areas, because if you say you're going to have a pole and troll at like a 4-foot depth on the South Shore, you're out of your mind. I mean, you might as well just block it off. I think they need to have designated lanes for people to get off, and then you do an idle or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah, that's what
and
we-
that has been proposed.
It has.
And the manatee people shot that under the water, by the
Yep.
way. And I'm not a manatee hater, but
Well,
they're extreme.
You know, when that's a whole separate topic, and really, a lot of that really affects us because we're in the heat of that with
What affects
the power.
everybody?
Well, I mean, just manatee zones. Like,
yeah.
I mean, if you look at our chart, Hillsborough County does a crazy job with with manatee protection and conservation. And so all those manatee zones that we have, I mean, you can look on our permit,
Yeah.
and it shows you,
It's
specifically. And some of those areas, I mean, are sort of over and beyond what I think is needed in terms of, where the zone should actually be. But it's one of those things where it's a lot harder to go back now that it's been deemed.
Yeah.
well, that's what I was saying. Be
a
careful what
safe
you ask for.
zone.
It's got to be. I think what they need to do is I think you need to have.
It gets a little tough.
To me, on them zones, when they have them, I think you need to have a central person here, the extremist on one end here, the extremist here. Then there's going to be a central person with some common sense that comes to some common grounds to meet both of them.
There's
Because
always a
what happens
negotiator.
is
There's
this
a give and a
person over
take.
here has got a ton of money, and this person over here is volunteering their time, and the money outwins the guy volunteering his time. Even though they both have valid points and they're not getting to a general consensus, it doesn't matter because the person with all the lobbyist money wins.
Well,
And
welcome
on
to
some of these
politics.
zones and stuff. So that's the problem with that. But, I think redfish, they need to do something. I'm okay with the closure just because I fish every day, as you.
That's it right there, Todd. Bam.
Yep, and Todd's right.
That's what I think the root of it is. Because you know what? If it's water quality, we're still catching the snook there. We're still catching the trout there. I catch redfish or caught redfish in the past in the same places.
Todd, I agree.
I'll be honest with you. It's one of those fish where you can go buy a redfish. You can go buy a redfish if you want to eat one. You can order them. They have, farm-raised fish if you want a redfish to go eat one.
I think what they're
For a
going
year
to
or
have.
two, if you're that redfish on the half-shell guy, well, order a few of them, man.
Yeah.
Let them swim. I mean,
I think it's gonna, and he may. I'm with Todd. I think that a closure is gonna help it. I don't know if it'll be.
That says 1,000%, not 100%, and that's right. I mean,
Yeah.
I counted 86 boats from the Little Manatee River to Cockroach Bay Inlet last year, on the flats on a spring morning. 86 boats. How is there any fish left at all?
but you look at it, it's a population thing. I mean, we're gonna have to. And that's why stuff like this comes up, man.
This is why this survey.
It's only going to get worse. There's not going to be less people on the water.
Absolutely.
So if there was 86, mark our words, this is show number whatever in 2018, and Rick saw 86 boats. Well, in 2021, you're going to be coming here telling me you saw 150.
107, yeah.
I mean,
Or
it's
whatever.
not going to get any worse.
This year's been the worst.
But what we have to do is, and guys like us that are on the water a lot. No, I'm not going to make the rules. I'm not going to go, fight for this and fight for that specifically. But the least I can do is give what I'm seeing, give a feedback
Right.
back.
Yep.
And I'm not
See
saying,
what I'm saying, give an honest answer, and that's all we're asking with some of this survey stuff.
And
I
we're
think
not saying there should
that's
be
the
86
small part.
boats out there. Everybody has the right to go
Right.
fish. That's not. We're not saying that at all.
But there's got to be a way
But
for us all
but you have
to enjoy it.
As those numbers increase and everybody has that
You
right
have
to go
to
fishing, and you know what?
Tighten limits up.
It's good for our industry that we do have that many fishing.
Sure.
It shows fishing is strong. That's great.
When's the last time you
But-
seen a change on redfish?
Since they went, well,
Net ban.
it used to be closed March and April, and whenever they took that and made it year long, I don't know when.
And then
that
they
was.
went.
That was
Well,
20 years
besides,
ago?
when did it change for less? Because they did go to 2 per person up
That's
north.
up north.
They went back to
Yeah.
1 now.
Yeah.
They
So
went back to 1.
my point being is they haven't looked at regulations in forever, and I mean he is right about snook, and snook is a way slower growing fish and a way slower reproducing fish. So to me, I think if that's the answer with redfish, I think that you will see a drastic change in a faster fashion as far as numbers.
But
But
regulations.
but we don't know
I
that
don't
that-
think regulations. I don't think, and because let's back right on up. Regulations. Harvesting fish. That's what we're talking about. Regulations. It ain't. It's harvesting a fish. Now, if you change the size and say, well, you can only keep an 18 to 23 inch redfish, that's a way bigger deal. I don't think the slot limit is in
No, I
jeopardy.
think closed season is what we need.
So harvesting. So regulations.
Part of it.
To kill them. to go kill redfish. And what I'm saying is, if we all said, everybody that fishes Tampa Bay right now, I am not going to kill another redfish in 2018, and we don't do anything else but not kill a redfish, I don't think we're going to see this giant influx of redfish
I think it'll take 2 or 3 years.
by next year.
Oh, yeah, it's
What I'm
definitely
saying is
not gonna
just
be
like
that
Mark
quick.
said, we have water quality issues, we have habitat issues, we have pressure issues, pollen troll. It's a combination of everything, and not one thing doing one thing is going to fix the entire problem.
No.
And so there's other things that have to go forward with that, and that's where I think giving the feedback to say, hey man, we've been in Sarasota fishing longbar for 5 years, and 2 years ago, man, we could catch a redfish on every cast, and this year we can't catch a single one, and we've been out here for 2 years, and we can't find the redfish. Well, that's something FWC can go, well, what's happened in Sarasota Bay in the last 2 years? Look at what happened down in Pine Island with, Big Sugar and all that kind of stuff, The idea is that if you have low numbers now, and it kind of falls back to the snook thing, if we have low numbers now, we don't do anything. We don't do anything. One catastrophic event.
Oh yeah.
If we have something like that, or one of these big wastewater plants has a huge spill, or another oil rig blows up in the Gulf of Mexico or something. All that kind of stuff. When you're riding on the thin edge of something, any one major event can change things drastically. Whereas if it's being managed at a level to where it can sustain a natural event or something happening, then you're doing things right, And I think right now with redfish, I'm not saying they're all dead. I'm not saying you can't go out and catch one. I'm not saying you won't go out and catch 20 of them in a day. What I'm saying is those days are going to be few and far between.
Well, I would tell you this.
Here's what I would tell Bob. Bob, the condors hadn't come back.
Everything is cyclical.
To somewhat, I get
I
where
agree
Bob's
with you,
going
Bob,
with that.
but
I agree.
let me-
Everything it
let
does
me-
go in a cycle, but some things you've got to be proactive on.
I agree.
You got
no,
You got
reactive
I'm
yeah.
gonna
is,
tell you
is,
one, here's
is only
something
goes
that's
so
not
far.
cycling. The pressure on the water.
Right.
We're never going to go back to what it was 15 years ago.
No.
That's not a cycle.
Right.
So that affects the other cycle. So
and
The,
it's
the X factor to this is the hatchery.
yeah. No,
The X factor
that,
to this
that,
is the ability for
that's
man
what they can't do with
to
snook.
control and produce stock.
And that's what they cannot
That's
do
the
with
one
snook,
thing.
and the snook rebound it. So let's just say that we're down on numbers on
but if you put a
redfish.
bunch of fish out there and they die because they're the same issues
Right.
we have, what's
so we
the
have
point?
to figure So we have to figure out the problem. What I'm saying though is, if they figure out the problem,
you
you
guys got
mix the
45
fact
seconds.
that you can do a hatchery,
Mhm.
it's going to be way better than our snook rebound. But you have to figure the problem out. I agree with you. I agree. I think we're on the same page. But I will tell you this:
Everybody
this
wants the
is
same
not.
end result.
I can't say this enough. This is not a Tampa thing. This
No.
is like
Right.
East Coast. I'm
Charlotte
telling you.
Harbor's big on it right now.
It's
You know,
an
there's
issue.
several guys down there that I know and talk to that are full-time fishing guides, and they're seeing the same thing. And again, don't
East
take
Coast.
it. Don't take it to the extreme.
30
and that's
seconds
why I
and we're
say,
going to go eat a hamburger.
we're still catching
I ain't playing
redfish.
golf either.
They're still around. Me
gonna go eat a
personally, I'm not
hamburger.
targeting them as hard as I was, but it's a matter of being proactive and not reactive. That's
Well,
the
guys,
idea.
we appreciate y'all tuning in. Hopefully, we gave you some good information tonight, and we hope this weather goes away. And next week we'll be talking some fishing.
Out.